Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. My name's Christine Shaw. I'm the Executive Director of the Council on Aging. I know so many of you, and I was thrilled at the turnout for today, but it makes sense because this is a topic that we have people every day walking in, calling, emailing us, forwarding us things. We're just inundated with scams all day, every day. People of all ages, but especially older adults. And honestly, a lot of times people are really embarrassed when they encounter a scam. They might click on something too fast, but people of all ages do it. We do it here, as our staff has done it, but they really, really target older adults because there's some unique situations and ways they can take advantage. So we have an awesome panel here today. I am thrilled, and I appreciate all of their time. We have Detective Lieutenant Brian Gallagher from Arlington Police Department. We have Dan Doricos from Watertown Savings Bank. We have Lucila Prates Ramos from the Senior Medicare Patrol. She's the statewide director. So they're all going to be sharing what they're encountering and what they're seeing in their work. This is what they see every day, and sharing it with all of you. We are going to hold all the questions till the end. So even if you have a really great question that you don't want to forget, you got to wait until all three panelists are done just to help keep things going. Thank you so much to ACMi who is here. They're recording it, and they'll be able to rebroadcast it for people that can't be here in person, which we really appreciate because a lot of people need to get this information. And also thanks to Watertown Savings Bank for providing some snacks and the waters for everybody today. We appreciate that. So without further ado, I will let Detective Gallagher get started. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
I'm actually going to stand up here, guys, because I'm not very good at sitting down. Usually I'm kind of working the crowd and working my way around, but they're making me stay behind a microphone today, so I'm going to do it because I follow directions very, very well. How's everyone's allergies today? Awful, aren't they? Yeah, my head feels like it's this big right now, so if I mess up a little bit, forgive me. My allergies are killing me, but I really shouldn't. This presentation, guys, could realistically be 2 hours long, but I can sum everything up for you guys super quickly in just 2 sentences. Nobody should ever try and separate you from your money, and nobody should ever try and separate you from your information. If anybody ever asks for those 2 things and you don't know them, you don't recognize the phone number, you haven't signed up for that subscription, you don't know anything at all about that phone call or that email, and it comes in completely cold from you, it's a scam. Period. We all have to do our research in everything that we do, and we're going to get into like some of the scams that we see here in Arlington and we see really regionally and across the whole state and across the whole country. But those 2 statements are going to ring true, and I'm going to say them to you guys 10 different times today. No one should ever try and separate you from your money, and nobody should ever try and separate you from your personal information. We have somebody great here from the banks. We have somebody great here from Medicare, and they're going to talk to you guys about all the scams that they're seeing. But realistically, everything can be summed up into those 2 statements alone. Who here has been either the victim of a scam or who has been something attempted on them? Everybody. Me, my wife, my parents, my kids are getting older, even my kids. It is unbelievable. Phone calls you don't recognize, emails you don't recognize, click on this, Medicare stuff, dating scams, cryptocurrency stuff. Like it's absolutely everything, and it's everywhere. And AI, I know we've heard a lot about that, isn't making things any easier for anybody. They're more difficult to investigate. They're more difficult to track. They're more difficult to be able to differentiate between what's real and what isn't real. So some of the more prevalent scams that we see right now often come in from just a phone number that you don't recognize. And then you answer the phone. They give some information that seems like it's germane to you, and you know a few things about that, and I may have that account, or that person might be in my family, or I have seen them lately, or I have spent money on that, or I did want to invest in that. And then as soon as they find that one common thread, they have you. They're professionals. This isn't their part-time job. It's not what they do on occasion. This is what they do all day, every day. This is their job. So they're really, really, really good at getting the hooks into you. And once they do, they start that ball rolling. You give out more information than you realize, more information than you wanted to. And oftentimes, even when you've given out some information and you realize it could be a scam, some people feel like they're embarrassed. Some people feel like they have to continue. Some people feel pressured. Another huge tactic from them is pressure, pressure, pressure. No police department, no bank, no Medicare facility is ever going to tell you you need to make these decisions right now. You need to run out and get us some money right now. You need to go get us a bank card right now. None of us will ever do that to you. If you ever feel pressured, you feel like something isn't right, you feel like something isn't adding up, use your gut, hang up, call the police, call your family, call your bank, and try and verify all the information that they're trying to get out of you. Because the police and the bank or anybody who you want to invest with will never call you and demand money. They will never call you and ask for your personal information. They will never call you and tell you there's an arrest warrant for you. Trust me, if I'm coming to get you, you're not going to know it. I'm just going to come get you, and you're going to be like, what the hell just happened? Because that's how we work. We work on that surprise thing. I'm never going to call you and say, hey, there's something going on. Your computer was used. We have a drug transaction coming up from Texas, and your name is associated with it. You're on a website that is not proper, and we know that you're on it, and you're looking at bad stuff, and we know that you've done that. We're going to come and arrest you. We have an arrest warrant for you. You need to give us $600 so we can clear this up right now. All those things, like if you're not on that kind of a website, or you don't know what to be in Texas, or you aren't currently selling drugs, you have nothing to worry about. You have nothing to worry about. Any of those red flags that they give you, if anything on a phone call to you doesn't add up, it doesn't add up. Hang up, call the family member, call the police. All of our cops are trained in this kind of stuff. All of our cops know the scams. All of our cops can walk you through this stuff, and all of our cops can put you at ease. The other thing that we often find is sometimes when you do get scammed, people get embarrassed. And I understand that. Trust me when I tell you, you should never be embarrassed in front of a cop. We've seen everything. We've done everything. There is nothing to be embarrassed about. People fall victim to this stuff all the time. And oftentimes we won't get called till 6, 9, 12 months later when they're out hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're completely out of money. And then they call us at that point and they say, I should have called you the first day, but I was too embarrassed to call. I was too worried about what my family was going to think. I was too worried if I was going to get judged. And now I have no money. They've taken everything from me, and now I need help. The really crummy things about most of these scams are, once you separate yourself from your money, the odds of you getting that money back, as good as we are, as good as the banks are super, super, super slim. A lot of these things originate from outside the country. When they originate from outside the country, the threshold to get the feds involved is usually around $250,000. The problem is everybody else around the country is losing $250,000. So by the time we can all gather up in a task force and get all the people involved that we need, everything has passed by far too long. There was almost no way to get your money back, and it's just a tragic situation for everybody. We write search warrants, we do investigations, we get together with every other police department around, the FBI, the Secret Service, everybody else. We almost never get people their money back. It's awful. Which is why I will go back to my original statement, and I'm going to do it a bunch more times today. Never let anybody separate you from your money, and never let anybody separate you from your personal information. Banks have all your information. If I'm looking into you for something, I've already got all your information. Medicare has all your information. No one's going to cold call you and ask you to verify what you have because we already have that information. If you see a phone number that you don't recognize, do you answer it? I tell my parents the same thing. If you get a phone number and it doesn't say favorite son or something else on it, you do not answer your phone. Because if it's me and I need you, and I'm calling from like a payphone somewhere, which if good luck finding one, or from somebody else's cell phone number because I'm stuck somewhere, I'm going to leave you a message. You could check your voicemail 2 minutes later and be like, oh my God, it's Brian Gallagher. I have to call him back. And then you can call me back. But if you let a phone number you don't recognize go to voicemail, they're going to leave you a crazy message. You're not going to recognize the voice. You're not going to know what they're talking about. And you're going to know that's not somebody I need to call back. The other crazy thing is the more emails you reply to, the more phone numbers you answer that you don't recognize, they build you up in their database. So as soon as you click on an email and reply to it, you're going to get a million more emails. As soon as you pick up a phone number that you don't recognize and it's a scamming phone number, they put you in this database and they say, they answer the phone. You're going to get a million more phone calls. So it gets worse and worse and worse. I do it on purpose to mine because I know it's a scam and I like to mess with them a little bit. And my wife goes crazy because she's like, you got to stop answering the phone for them because every time you answer the phone, they just call you more and more and more. I sometimes will get 20 phone calls a day. But I know if they're calling me, they're not calling you. So I don't mind when they call me because some things I can't say in ACMi, but I tell them a couple things that they probably don't want to hear, and then they get spooked. But then you're on a different database, and they call you again, and they call you again, and they call you again. Huge piece of advice, guys. If you don't know the phone number, don't answer it. If it's anybody who needs you, they're going to leave you a voicemail with the phone number to call them back at, and you can call them back in 2 seconds. That 3-minute delay between answering the phone and calling somebody back won't mean anything to anybody. Same thing with an email. Even if you get an email and it says it's from Watertown Savings Bank, but then you look at the URL or kind of like where it came from on the top of the computer, if it's not a recognized phone number, a recognized email address with like a .com at the end of it, no numbers in it, you can often kind of differentiate some emails that you'll get from these scamming companies, because if you look at where it actually came from, it's a crazy web address that you've never seen before, you don't recognize, and isn't legitimate. But all the paperwork looks legitimate, their banner looks legitimate, your name might be correct, your address might be correct, and you're like, geez, this must be from Watertown Savings Bank. But it isn't. Never click on a link unless you're completely sure when you get an email. And never answer a phone call if you don't know the phone number. Never give out any information on email, on telephones, anything else, because the people who need to get a hold of you, or the people who need to work with you, or the people who need you for something, whether it's in regards to your banking or your investments or your Medicare, we don't make cold calls. We've already got your information. And if you really think it's legitimate and it's from Watertown Savings Bank, tell them, I appreciate the phone call. I'm going to go to my branch right now. I'm going to go down to the branch, and I'm going to go figure it out. We tell people that all the time. Like, I still bank in person a lot. My wife pays most of our bills, and she does a lot of that online. But if I need money, I get onto my bank. I know all my tellers. They know who I am. They know my kids. They know my wife. So if I ever walk into the bank and I say, hey, I just got a crazy phone call. Do you guys know anything about that? They'd be like, Gallagher, we didn't call you. And we would never call you for that kind of information. I know sometimes personal banking is difficult, but it can kind of get you out of a couple of jams too. It's not a bad thing to do. If you get a call from a bank or an entity that you know of and you often do business with, hang up the phone with them, call them back from a phone number you've usually used in the past, or try and go and visit them yourselves personally, and they can tell you whether or not anything has ever happened. But I can't tell you guys enough, you can call the police anytime you have a question about any of this kind of stuff, because it isn't only me. I have an unbelievable team of detectives who can get to the bottom of almost anything, but it isn't even our team. It's also all the patrol people. It's all the men and women who work in the police cars who will come to your house, who will talk about things with you. They will walk you through things. All the federal forms you might want to fill out if you've been scammed. All the local forms you want to fill out if you've been scammed. We can walk you through everything and all these different processes to prevent it in the future and to try and get some of your cash back for you now. But as good as all these investigators are who do this stuff all the time, oftentimes once they separate you from your money, the odds of you getting that money back are very, very, very rare. But the quicker we get involved, the quicker you realize it's a scam, the more likelihood it is for you to get your money back. But if you don't call us for 6 months and you've been going through all these different transactions, like, giving money to cryptocurrency, allowing them to have access to your computer so they can get into your bank accounts and do all that kind of stuff, making you run down to CVS or Stop and Shop to get scratch-off cards, not the lottery cards, but, like the gift cards where they ask you to scratch the number on the back and read it to them. No real institution will ever ask you to do any of that kind of stuff. If anybody tries to separate you from your money, it is not true. If anybody tries to separate you from your personal information, it is not true. We're all going to talk for a little bit. We're going to take questions from you guys afterwards. But if you can remember those two statements, that will sum up this entire presentation in just those two statements. Reach out to your family. Reach out to the police. Reach out to your bank. We all know what's going on. We can all help you. Do not be embarrassed to reach out for help. Please, please, please. We're here for you guys. I'll take questions afterwards. And those are really the two things I want you to remember. No one should take your cash. No one should take your ID. Got it? Awesome. Thank you.
Well, that was a good rundown, huh? And one thing I do want to say, I wasn't going to say this in my presentation, but a very important point. The quicker you can report the fraud, it's much, much, much more likely that you might be able to get some, maybe even all, but some of your money back. From the banking perspective, when your money goes to gift cards, that money's going to get cleaned out real fast. Cryptocurrency, you can't reverse those transactions. Wire transfers, you can send a ton of money very quickly with a wire transfer. When that scammer gets it on the other end, they are going to be cleaning it out of their account as fast as they can. They're going to be trying to get it out of the country, buying cryptocurrency there. So, if you do get scammed again, we see it a lot. It can be embarrassing, especially depending on the type of scam. Please report. The sooner you report it, the better. So, all right. Anyway, so I know we have some other speakers here, so I want to keep things moving. But I do want to talk first about what kind of fraud we're seeing at our bank, in this region. We already heard a little bit about it. Check fraud, check washing. It's been in the news. You've probably seen it. Has anybody had an instance of check washing? We have one here. Yep. My mother had it. It happened to her too. And unfortunately, it's super easy to wash checks these days. Businesses, and some of our customers still write a lot of checks. And unfortunately, we tell you as a bank, protect your account number. Don't give anybody your account number. Every time you give somebody a check, you're giving them your account number. And it used to be the scammers, they would just wash the check. Does anybody not know what washing is? That refers to the practice of, there's certain chemicals they can use, almost like as a kid, did you ever use invisible ink where you could, make the writing go away? So you might write a check to National Grid to pay your bill for $100. They will wash it and change National Grid to, Johnny Scammer, and change it from $100 to $10,000 or more. So what can you do to prevent this? Number one, we tell people to mail your checks at inside of a post office. I know there's blue mailboxes everywhere. It's very convenient, but unfortunately the scammers have found several different ways where they can open those mailboxes. And they love finding mail with checks in it, or gift cards or cash or whatever. Those mailboxes are no longer secure. And unfortunately, even some of the mail distribution centers, unfortunately, there's a few bad apples at the post office. Unfortunately, anytime you're writing a check, there's a chance that it could be compromised. Even if you get it to the person where the bill is, if it goes to Verizon, is the Verizon office shredding your check at the end, or are they just throwing it in the trash? What can you do about this? Make sure you check your statements, all right? Or if you're using online banking, you can check it, before your statement comes. If you report check fraud within, a reasonably quick period of time, at Watertown Savings Bank, it would be 30 days after your statement is given to you, you will not be liable for any fraud. One thing I'll say, too, to beware of, though, the scammers also love it when they find a bigger check. This time of year, a lot of people might be writing, large checks to either state or federal government for taxes. They love it when they find a $12,000 check because they don't need to change the amount. They just change the name. And what's happened is you look at your statement, you say, oh, yep, my check cleared for $12,000, everything's fine. What you might not have looked at is the image and see it was not payable to the IRS anymore. It's payable to Johnny Scammer now. So you really need to keep an eye on your statements. As a bank, we have manual processes, manual reviews. We use image recognition software to try to see if your handwriting is different or the check stock is different. But just make sure you're checking your statements, or even better, if you have online banking, just keep an eye on your accounts. One thing we've seen a lot in the last 4 or so months, debit card fraud. And people familiar with the term phishing? So we have, unfortunately, there's so many data breaches out there. that people will know that you might have an account at a certain bank, and they might have part of your account number too, or your debit card number. They're going to call you, or it might start with a text message, but they're going to call you and they're going to try to get your account number, your PIN number. They're going to tell you, hey, did you purchase at Walmart in Miami, Florida? And you say, no, I didn't. They say, oh, okay, well, we see this purchase going through. And you might be asked to either reply to a text message. Banks will sometimes send you a text message asking if you made a purchase. But if you get a phone call and they start asking you for your debit card number, like he was saying, we have all that information. And if they're asking for your PIN, we don't have your PIN and we don't want to know your PIN. That's your business. Do not share your PIN. Do not share your debit card number. And one thing, too, Detective Gallagher did mention not picking up for numbers you don't recognize. Unfortunately, caller ID can even be spoofed. The scammers can make the caller ID, the number and the name on it. They can make it say whatever they want. They can have it say Watertown Savings Bank Fraud Department. They'll even call and say, hi, I'm calling from the Fraud Department at Watertown Savings Bank. Unfortunately, they're con artists. They're very good at what they do here. Another type of scam, we don't see this as often, but when we do, we see huge losses, hundreds of thousands of dollars, people cleaning out their retirement. Investment scams. Most scams operate, the scammers are trying to get you to act as quickly as possible. Investment scams are a little different. Maybe romance scams are another type where it's a slow game. They kind of get to know you. You start with a little bit of money. They might direct you to a certain website. You invested, $100 and it quadrupled in a week. And you say, that's great. And they're showing you a website that shows you all your gains. You start sending in more money. You keep getting more gains. I mean, who wouldn't want the money to quadruple in a week? That sounds great, right? And they'll even show you a website that shows you how much you've made. So they encourage you to send more and more money in. It's often done with wire transfers, or particularly these scams involve cryptocurrency. Anything like that, it's definitely a scam. Please, and what happens at the end of these scams is the minute you want to take some of your money out, oh, well, wait a minute. Oh, there's taxes and fees you got to pay first to get your money out. They want you to send in more money, right? And unfortunately, before you know it, there's no funds in that account. All your money is gone. So just be very wary with any sort of investment scam. The last scam type I'm going to talk about really encompasses a ton of different things. Imposter scams. They're all con artists. There's a ton of them out there. And as a bank, we spend a ton of money on cybersecurity. We have vaults. We have access systems, cameras. Guess what? If you come to us and say you want your money, we have to give it to you. All those vaults, cybersecurity, it doesn't matter. If a scammer convinces you to get your money, all of our fancy systems can do nothing about that. So you've probably heard about some of these scams. They love to impersonate government officials, the IRS, Social Security, law enforcement. Hi, I'm Detective Gallagher. You have an arrest warrant. You need to, buy Apple gift cards. It's believe it or not, it happens.
Okay, if it's me, it's all right. You can do that for me.
All right, we have one exception here. Tech support. We see this a lot, particularly with our older customers. You get a pop-up or something, you click on it, and before you know it, here's a huge red flag. If anybody ever asks to start a remote session into your computer or your phone, meaning they want to connect to your computer, move your mouse around, and then they're going to want you to log into your online banking. If you ever get a remote session or something like that, stop it, unplug your computer. It's definitely going to be a scam. Banks, like I was just saying, people impersonate your bank, right? Utility companies, we get that a lot. Your power is going to be shut off unless you pay this bill right away. Employers, people, sometimes even at your age, although even we have minors too who get caught up in these employment scams. I've been getting text messages probably a few times a week with, hey, $2,500 a day, you only have to work 2 hours. It's too good to be true, right? It probably is. Romance scams, like those are really tricky ones, unfortunately, because when the scam's over, number one, people are embarrassed, and they thought they had met the love of their life, but unfortunately, not only was it not a real person, but that person took their money. Family members, and this is people impersonating your family members. Sometimes I don't want to get too much into it now. You might have real family members acting improperly, but anybody heard of the grandkid scam? Yeah, it works. It works. I'm sure Detective Gallagher's seen that one many times. You know, if for people who are unfamiliar, some scammer will call you pretending to be a member of your family. And sometimes they even know your kids' names. How might they know that? Public records, there's a lot of that, but obituaries, unfortunately. You know, they find out the name of all your nieces and nephews and grandkids and whatnot. They'll call you. Hey, Grandma, this is Johnny. I've been in an accident. You know, and this is my one phone call. I'm in jail. There's a gag order. And, you know, there's a pregnant woman that got hit and she miscarried. And then the phone goes away and some, detective, hey, that was his last phone call. He's going to Gen Pop unless you send, $5,000 right away. And again, once you send that money, there's going to be more. They're going to be asking for more. So there's a ton of different imposters that want to separate you from your money. Now, what are some of the themes that come with these? Cash withdrawals. I understand that cash is used for a lot of legitimate things, but scammers love to get their hands on cash. That's usually a big red flag if you're being asked to withdraw cash. The IRS doesn't want you to pay in cash, and why would you want to pay? You want a receipt. You want to write them a check or make an electronic payment, right? Wire transfers. Again, wires are used for a lot of legitimate purposes, but wires are very appealing to scammers because you can move a lot of money very quickly. And as a bank that receives a wire transfer, the bank is going to make all of that money available right away, which means the scammer can clean out that account very quickly. Peer-to-peer services, Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, we see that a lot. It's smaller dollar, but over time that can really add up. Gift cards, like he said, unless it's him, they're not going to be asking for gift cards to pay the IRS or Social Security. So that's a huge red flag. Remote support sessions, like I was saying before, if they want to come onto your computer or your phone and control it and see your screen, huge red flag. Account takeover, meaning sometimes our customers are tricked into revealing their name and password to the bank. And do you ever, I bet a lot of you, if you use online services of any sort, they'll send you a text message code to log in, and oftentimes the message says right at the top, do not share this code. Unfortunately, what do people do? The scammers say, don't worry, no, that the legal team just said we had to say that. I need the code. Never, ever, ever share that code with somebody over the phone. Even within a bank, that you shouldn't be sharing that code. That code's for you. That is the last line of defense once somebody already has your username and your password. Now, how do these scammers get the money? So if you withdraw cash, they might ask you to put it in the mail or, UPS. Unfortunately, it's kind of scary, but sometimes they'll even send someone to your house to pick up the mail because they don't want you to be going into the post office and seeing all the signs about not mailing cash. They want to cut out the middleman. They will come to your house and happily take that cash. That's a huge red flag. And Detective Geller already talked about a bit, cryptocurrency. I don't know if any people are familiar with Bitcoin ATMs. A lot of states are now banning them. I think Waltham has banned them. I have a couple pictures for people who are unfamiliar. These are basically ATMs, but instead of giving you cash, you put cash in them to buy Bitcoin. Now, why do scammers like them? They won't tell you you're going to a Bitcoin ATM. We had a recent scam where a person was told by it was federal law enforcement. Their account was compromised, and they had to take their cash to a special government ATM, which was going to protect their funds. And what were they given? You see these. I don't know if you can see it well. There's a series of numbers and letters. This is called a Bitcoin wallet address. They're going to give you some secret code, basically. That is the address where the Bitcoin that you're buying will be sent to. That will be under their control. If they're not going to necessarily tell you it's Bitcoin, because then you're going to know it's a scam, right? But if they tell you it's some secret wallet address, maybe some people would not recognize it. But if that's anytime you see a series of numbers and letters like this, with involving with a payment, that means there's Bitcoin or Ethereum or Tether. There's other types involved. Those are some of the most common, though. That indicates Bitcoin. If that's coming with any of those agencies or whatever that I talked about before, huge red flag. So be very careful with anything involving cryptocurrency. Now, why are these so successful? Well, first of all, they're pretending to be someone important, right? We're from federal law enforcement, the IRS, or whoever. And we see this a lot at the bank. They're going to tell you that to keep it a secret. They're going to tell you to lie to your bank. We have people that come in, and it's difficult as a bank because we want you to be able to get your money for legitimate purposes. But people will come in, hey, I need to withdraw $20,000 in cash. And that's kind of an unusual transaction. And we'll ask, okay, we're not trying to pry into your business. We're trying to prevent scams. Well, why do you need it? Oh, I'm going to buy a vehicle. Okay. Some people, particularly if you're buying a used car, from a private party, okay, maybe. But the scammers will tell you that. Or the other big one we hear is home repairs. I guess some contractors, they'll give you a cash discount. But a lot of times, again, these people are told to lie to the bank. And they'll come up with some reason. Oh, the bank's going to slow down the process. And anytime someone tells you to lie to the bank or to your family, don't tell anybody, huge red flag. And again, there's a few scams where this is not the case. But they're going to be creating a sense of urgency. For example, you're going to be arrested. Your Social Security is going to be cut off. Your utility, we're going to cut your power. Your kid is in jail and something, they're never going to get out. They're going to be giving you a sense of urgency to act now, because the longer you think about this, you're going to realize this just doesn't add up, right? No, they want you to do it right away. Sometimes they'll even tell you to stay on the phone with them because they want to know when you go into the bank that the bank didn't talk you out of it. And I talked a little bit about this before, but they can spoof, meaning they can fake, they can put whatever they want on the caller ID. So again, don't pick up numbers you don't recognize, but be wary of contact coming from something that you might recognize. Now, one thing that I want to tell you about spoofing, it's a one-way street. They can't spoof the picking up of that number. So if you just don't answer it and call them back, that will go to the real party. But it's the incoming number they can spoof. So just realize that just because it says it's coming from Watertown Savings Bank or the IRS or whatever, that's not necessarily true. And unfortunately, there's a lot of data breaches out there. So these folks already know some of your information. They might know you have an account at a certain bank. They might know you have a checking account. They might even know the last 4 digits of your account. But they're calling you to get the last pieces of the puzzle to try to get the full account number or to get your money. They do target vulnerable populations, whether it be elderly folks, people with a mental handicap, even minors too. I know this is a senior center. We have people under the age of 18 who get scammed. They're on Instagram and they meet someone, and before we know it, they're giving away their online banking credentials. So it's all ages that are getting scammed here. And lastly, AI. I know AI is in the news a lot, but unfortunately, it's making the scammers' lives a lot easier. Does anybody? I know 20 years ago, you get these emails written by someone in Nigeria. It wouldn't make sense, and you'd almost laugh at it, right? Now those people in Nigeria, they can go on ChatGPT too and have it written in very clean English. They can even fake voices and even videos nowadays. So you have to be very careful. Keep your guard up. Now, what can you do? Slow down. Again, they're going to be wanting you to act as soon as possible. The more time you have to think about it, the more likely that you're going to realize it's a scam. We've had several instances where we tell people at the window when they're taking out cash as part of a scam, it's a scam, we don't like this, we think something's wrong. Oh, and the customers tell us, oh, don't worry about it. They go home, they think about it. They come in the next day, say, you know what, you were right. And sometimes they didn't actually send the money out. So the scammers are going to try to get you to go as fast as possible. And also, again, trust your gut. In the middle of some of these scams, they're just waiting for someone to, like, an excuse not to go through with it. They're on one hand, they're very afraid of whatever's been threatened. On the other hand, just they realize something isn't adding up. So what can you do? You could ask a family member or a friend about it. You could check with your bank, the police, or the Council on Aging. And like I said with spoofing, it only works in one direction. If someone calls you, oh, hi, I'm from your bank and I need your number or whatever. Okay, you know what? I'll call you back, or even better, go into a branch. That caller ID spoofing, it only works in one direction. So anytime you think just something's weird, say, you know what? I need to call you back. Call them back and you'll get the real number. And lastly, things like these, unfortunately, the news, you'll get lots of. It's sad to hear about all the scams that are happening out there, but just try to stay aware of what's going on. That's the best I can say. These scammers, like he said, it's their full-time job. They're always trying to think up new ways to separate you from your money, and that's what we don't want. So just the more you can keep on top of what the newest scam typologies and whatnot, the better. So thank you very much.
I'd like you to try to put this on. Figure out what part of the body it belongs to. never ticketed me.
No, never.
But I
I'm
think
not a big ticket
that
guy.
You look familiar.
Unless
so
you're a scammer, you're okay with me, so
so
don't
you
worry
know
about
what?
that.
I'm going to give you the more complicated one.
Great. I might flunk this test, but we'll see how it goes.
All right. So, hey, everybody. You've heard a lot about scams, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about scams. But it really involves Medicare. So, my name is Lucilia, and I am the director for the Massachusetts Senior Medicare Patrol Program. Okay, otherwise known as, let me just move that. Okay, otherwise known as the Mass SMP. We want to be branded and as famous as ARP, but I think it's going to take a long time for that to happen. So, the Massachusetts Senior Medicare Patrol Program is part of a national initiative that's funded by the Administration for Community Living, the Department of Health and Human Services. And I need to say that because our funder, who knows who's watching, right? So there is an SMP program in each state and in the territories of Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and D.C. So there are 54 of us altogether. The mission of the program is to reach, educate, and counsel Medicare and Medicaid beneficiaries, their family members, and caregivers on preventing, detecting, and reporting healthcare errors, fraud, and abuse. This is the overall mission of this national effort, okay? We all accomplish this mission in various ways, differently. And the vision for the SMP program in Massachusetts is to really engage consumers in their health care so that they become activated and keep a record of all that's happening to them in the healthcare system, thus the journals that are on the back table. And if we run out of them, I can bring more here to you, Christine, for dissemination. So we have healthcare, or you can call us and we will mail them to you. So we encourage people to please open their Medicare summary notices when they get them in the mail, their explanation of benefits if they don't get a Medicare summary notice. Look at them. Make sure that what's on them actually happened in your health care, that it is something that you actually went to the doctors for, that the doctor actually prescribed for you. Healthcare errors, fraud, and abuse cost over $60 billion annually. And I have been using that figure for almost 2 decades, since the Medicare Modernization Act, which was enacted back in 2007. That's the number that the government has given us. They gave it to us then. We have not gotten a new figure, so that's the number that we use. That is a lot of our taxpayer dollars being wasted. We all need to play a role in this. Healthcare errors, fraud, and abuse not only cost billions of dollars, but they can have devastating health-related outcomes for any one of us or our loved ones. So we need to really be very aware of what's happening to us in the healthcare system. We need to keep a record. We need to write things down. We need to prepare for the visits. We need to really be very engaged. If you don't like that little notebook back there, please go out and get yourself a different notebook that you find that you're going to be able to write in and keep a record, a chronological order of what's happening to you, what you're receiving in the mail, okay, as products. So how you doing there, guys?
Not well.
Okay. Point made. Keep doing it. Okay, so healthcare errors, fraud, and abuse come in many forms. Medical errors. This is when something unexpected and unacceptable happens to you in the Medicare, as a Medicare in the medical world. And as a Medicare beneficiary, you have a right to report all quality of care concerns to what's called the Quality Improvement Organization. Centra Health is the organization that's contracted by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services as the beneficiary family-centered care quality improvement organization. You don't need to memorize any of that. Memorize the Centra Health. Why do you need to have this number, and why do you need to know about this entity? This entity is a place that people call or family members can call if there is a quality of care complaint to be filed. This is also the entity that you call if you are you feel you're being prematurely discharged from a hospital or from a skilled nursing facility. If you're in a skilled nursing facility for rehab and somebody comes up to you and says, well, you know, you're not progressing or your PT is over, you gotta want to discharge you, you can appeal that. You can appeal that discharge. And you should be informed of that by the entity, by both the hospital as well as the skilled nursing facility. So I want you to please all write down this number, or I don't know if you have pens, but can we send this to you? Okay. So it's a QIO, a CentraQIO.com for the website, and the telephone number is 888-319-8452. Important information for everybody to have and to pass on to their families. We heard previously, it's important to engage our families. It's important to keep them in the loop. They need to understand that there are recourses, there are places that can help us. And you can always call the Mass SMP program, and we're there to help you. And we answer the phone. And if we don't, because we're out and about, we return calls. But I'm really here to talk to you about the fraud and the scammers that we hear about daily at the SMP program. So we get a lot of billing errors. People call us with billing errors. They can't navigate their way out of that very wrinkled paper bag. And it's very hard to navigate a healthcare error because a lot of the billing is outsourced. You call a billing department and maybe the frontline person doesn't understand the issue, and you try to explain it. You explain it 10 times, 15 times. That's happened to me where I'm trying to help somebody and I have to call and keep calling and keep calling and repeating the story. When it's outsourced outside the United States often, and some people don't understand, or they have a very different accent. They don't understand me. I don't understand them very well, and so it poses lots of challenges. But we continue to do our best to help people navigate their billing error. I'm going to say to you around this, we don't want you people separated from their money. If it's not your bill to pay, please do not pay it. And please do not pay it unless you know it is your bill to be paid. And double check and triple check if necessary. Because once you've paid something, it's a lot harder to get your money reimbursed than it is to negotiate with the entity for the amount that you should actually be paying. We see billing for services not received. Outright, you got a bill from X hospital and you never step foot in the place, all right? We see that often. So you need to look at the summary notices. You need to keep a running account of what happens to you in the healthcare system, and you need to look at those bills and compare those dates to what you've entered in your journals. Really important. The following are examples of when less than ethical providers, and there are some out there, scammers and fraudsters, get a hold of beneficiaries' Medicare numbers, their personal health information. Really important to guard that. With the advent of electronic medical records, our information is everywhere, right? We heard about AI. Our information is everywhere. So it's very easy for you to receive something, for example, diabetic supplies, and you have no need for them. You're not a diabetic. It's just a company that's sending you diabetic supplies fraudulently, right? You didn't notice it, or you didn't do anything about it, or maybe it was never even shipped to you, but it showed up on your Medicare summary notice, and Medicare paid for it. Your Medigap insurance didn't, because Medigap insurances tend not to pay if it's an out-of-state entity mailing it. So now on your medical record somewhere, because somebody had to sign something to say that you could get this, and probably a Xerox order was sent to your physician or to your hospital, your medical home, and something got signed off. Now you've got something in your record that you're a diabetic, right? And this can pile up because once they have your number, you're going to get a lot of different products mailed to you. Be cautious, be wary, be alert, be active. You need to be looking at your Medicare summary notices and keeping an account of what's happening and what's showing up on them. Personal Healthcare Journal, I can't push that enough on you. It's really important. Once they get your doctor's name, they're going to be sending all sorts of things to be signed off on. And they're on their merry way. Once they get your Medicare number, your personal health information, they're on their merry way to billing Medicare for items that cost thousands of dollars. How are you guys doing? You got them on? I don't think the officer does.
No, mine is very wrong, but
Oh, wow.
I'm trying. Yeah, if
I'll
I
give
can.
you a hint. It's a back brace.
So it's not for your legs. So it's not for your legs. Great. I just took the whole thing apart and tried to start over here. All right. All right. Take two here. That's
Okay.
all right.
Billing and shipping of durable medical equipment,
Damn it.
such as the braces that people can't figure out how to put on. Okay.
Yeah, this is Comfortland. I think this might be a scam because there's no way. Comfortland.
And so they show up at people's doors, and people had no clue that they were getting them. Some of them actually were called and said, you know, any given day in the morning when somebody calls me and says, how's your back? You got back pain? Oh, it aches, you know. And that's all they need to send back braces to you. And once one turns 65, the phones really stop ringing and never stop. That's what happened to me with my personal direct line at the office. Now, I don't know how they got that information, but I don't get 20 calls, Officer Gallagher, but I get maybe 10. Yep. Yesterday, I got a call that I had one. Oh, I can't forget there's so many of them I can't remember unless I look at my notes. But I had one, the clearinghouse, Publishers Clearinghouse. And I said, oh, when is the van and the balloon showing up? Because I was so irritated. I'm in the middle of something in Publishers Clearinghouse. A Jeffrey Nelson from Jericho, New York, with a valid phone number, because I did call him back. I had won $5.5 million in a GMC pickup truck and $5,000 on the first of every month. And they gave me a package code number, and the supervisor was going to get a hold of me because I was being very skeptical and nasty to him. And I engaged. I typically tell people do not engage, as the officer did, but I do engage from time to time so that I know what the latest thing is out there so we can warn our beneficiaries when I'm out and about. So I thought yesterday was quite fitting, given that I was coming here today and Publishers Clearinghouse was calling me. So braces come in the mail, genetic testing kits, okay? Genetic testing kits is a problem. They're a problem because sometimes people are involved in some kind of study, and it's like a perfect storm. The genetic testing company calls. It has nothing to do with the study people are involved in. I've had a couple of cases like this, and they think this is for real, and so the genetic test comes, and people swab and send it back to the lab. Not only does it cost $10,000, $12,000, $13,000, right, for the genetic testing, it's not approved. You should not ever, ever be swabbing with anything that comes in the mail, please. It is not approved to be done unless you've had a conversation with a doctor and a doctor has prescribed it, and it is done in the doctor's office, in the presence of, a lab person or a nurse or a doctor. You should not be getting swabs in the mail and swabbing and sending it back to figure out if you've got cancer, if you've got cardiac disease, if you've got the gene, okay? This is not for real. This is fraudulent. And it's costing thousands of dollars, and it could cost you your life. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, swab, what are you swabbing with? You could be swabbing with anthrax, for all we know. You need to be cautious. People need to be on their toes. Billing for durable medical equipment never prescribed or received is becoming much more common. We get a lot of complaints from people who are receiving intermittent urinary catheters in the mail to the tune of $300 a month. Okay? That's 10 a day if you divide by 30, right? I don't think anybody's using that number of catheters, but they're being mailed out. Medicare's paying in the thousands. Okay? So please be aware. Please look at your Medicare summary notices and report anything that does not look accurate. As far as the braces can compromise your eligibility to receive a product or any other apparatus for that, or appliance for that matter. Okay, because if it's already been issued to you and you received it fraudulently and you didn't report it, and 6 months later you actually do need a brace of that nature, well, Medicare's already given you one. Medicare's not going to pay for it. So we need to be really vigilant and really attentive to what's coming in the mail. And please always report. It's so important to report. Okay, I already told you about my balloons and clearinghouse, Publishers Clearinghouse coming. I also get calls about life insurance incessantly. Life insurance, I got a call from Peter, who was calling me about a debt relief program that they have, and thank you, God, I don't need that debt relief program, but if somebody did, they would fall for it. And that Publishers Clearinghouse, I'm going to go back to that for a minute. If it was somebody who was lonely, homebound, that person was engaging. That person would have had somebody believing and giving him information. It's really important to tell all of your friends, your relatives, do not give out personal information. Home maintenance programs call me all the time. I could maybe use one, but I won't go with the caller. Interested in selling my house in the middle of the evening, 9 o'clock at night. Somebody I did not solicit, Also, I want to, on soliciting, I want to tell you that healthcare is a big moneymaker, if you didn't know that. Brokers, agents should never, ever be calling you, cold calling, or should be knocking on your door to sell you a product. Brokers and agents are typically working on a commission, and you really ought to get your information from an unbiased person, like a Shine counselor. I'm going to push the Shine program. We do this all the time across the state. Unbiased. They're going to give you information. You're going to make your decision. A broker is going to try to sell you a product that a commission can be made on, and more than one product oftentimes. So beware and be careful. And that's it. I think all the other things have really been covered. Around Medicare, I am here to answer any questions you may have. I have cards, and I have the handouts down the back. I think they've probably mostly gone, but I've got some. Thank you.
Great job.
How you doing with
Oh
that?
my God, I had it like on my ankles, and I was like,
Thank you
With
very
that,
much
buddy.
to all three of our speakers. I really appreciate that, and I think that Lucilia's presentation was something that was pretty eye-opening and not something we're usually thinking of when we're thinking of scams, but we, all the time, I mean, the amount of mail scams there are around health insurance and Medicare is huge. So I'm glad that we were able to extend the information today to include that. The only thing I wanted to add was you can always come to us at the Council on Aging. None of us are going to judge you. The people we have here that are volunteers or staff are vetted extensively. People come into our office all the time and they say like, hey, I want to take someone holiday shopping at the mall. Can you pair me up? Like, that would be nice. And it's probably somebody who means well and wants to help people in the community. And we say no, because we don't know them. We don't know them. We don't want you to go give them your credit card to pay at a store while you run to the restroom. And it kind of makes us sound a little crazy because a lot of times we say no to putting up flyers and promoting certain organizations or things that there might be people that really are good people. We're just always extra careful. So you can always come to our office. A lot of people do. They'll come with a piece of mail. They'll come and they'll show us a text they got or an email. We're happy to help tell you if it's a scam or not. And if we're confused or unsure, we always call the police right away. And we get it figured out. So you don't have to feel bad about it. It happens all the time. The scammer, no matter how much you talk to them, is not going to break either. I think that's something that's shocking to a lot of people. We've had people come in on the phone with a scammer. We've taken the phone and said to them, you are scamming this person. And they say, I'm not scamming this person. She's about to get her power turned off unless she pays me this money right now. And they'll argue. You won't believe. It's not like they'll say, oh, that's someone sounding official. I should hang up. A lot of times, there's no way of you, by talking to them, you can't figure it out. And they'll go back and forth. So I just wanted to say the extent that some of them will go to do it. But we did want to have some questions. This is usually some really engaging question type topics. So if you're wanting to share personal stories of things that happened to you, this isn't necessarily the best time to do that. Everybody is affected by scams. And if you have a question for one of the people that presented today, please ask. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of rephrase the question or say the question again before they answer, only because the people that are watching on ACMi, they won't be able to hear what your question is, and then they can only hear half the conversation, and it gets confusing. So does anybody have any questions? Start with Frank.
Does it help to block the number on the phone when you get those calls?
So he's asking if it helps to block the number that is coming in on your phone when you get the calls.
Yes. So if you get a call from a number that you don't know, hang up, block it. The only problem is, Frank, is that they're going to call you back 10 minutes later with a different number. But you should block any emails, block any phone numbers that you get that you know don't go to anybody who you know. Yes.
Yes. Does Medicare ever call to offer services?
No, Medicare will not call you to offer anything.
Yes. Great. Is it safe to wire money from her bank to her brother's bank in another state?
So overall, the wire transfer system is very secure. One thing you have to be careful of is there is a scam typology where people will attempt to pretend to be your brother and say, oh, my bank account number has changed or whatnot. So the wire itself is good. You just have to make sure that you know that you have the correct account information on the other end. And one thing with wire transfers is you do have to give up your account number. So if you're going to be receiving a wire, just realize that the other party will have your number. So hope that answered the question.
In the back in the yellow, Kathy. I see. So it was a legitimate contracting company that was more harassing for further work. That does sound a little, it sounds a little different because it's a legitimate company, but
Yeah. So it's a little bit about, that's kind of like a two-part question. There are frequent scams where a contractor who you don't know will drive down your street, look at your roof, look at your front steps, look at your siding, look at your paint, and all of a sudden you get a knock on your door and they'll say, hey, you wouldn't believe it, but we're in the neighborhood. I could fix your roof right now. It looks like it's pretty old. I can, just by looking at it, I can see the chimney needs to be reflashed. Your fascia board's falling apart. You know what? We're already here. I could probably do your whole roof right now for about $2,000. And you're like, you could do my whole roof for $2,000? That would be unbelievable. Yeah, and matter of fact, we could start today. Do you have the cash today? Well, I don't have the cash today, but if I run down to the bank, you guys could probably start, and we could have the whole thing done by the end of the day. The problem is that $2,000 job really is like a $30,000 job. And that $2,000 job that they tell you turns into a $5,000 job because as soon as you get back from the bank, they go, oh, Jesus, you know what? All the boards underneath the roof are rotted too, so it's going to go to like $5,000. Then they get up on the roof and they rip off a little bit of the shingles and they say, Jesus, now we get into it, we really realize all your nails are all rotted too, so now it's going to be like $15,000. Yeah, then they take out a nail and then they say it's going to be $30,000, and then it's $50,000, and then it's $180,000. So that $2,000 job by a guy knocking at your door who you thought was the greatest deal in the history of the world has just turned into a job that costs 25 times the price that the real job should cost. So that's a scam. Nobody's going to knock on your door, cold call you and say, I can start the job right now. If you have cash right now, I can fix it for super cheap. That doesn't happen. Everybody's out to make money. Every legitimate company has to make a buck. So no one's going to tell you they're going to do a job for you for way, 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 way less than you know. Even with no contracting experience, you know it should cost more than that. Anybody who tells you we can do it today, we're in the neighborhood, we get to start today, tell them to leave. There are so many unbelievable, great, reputable contractors here in Arlington. No one's going to pressure you into taking a job. Even if you don't want to use somebody in Arlington. If somebody tells you they can do your roof for $2,000, say, great, thanks, give me your phone number. Find somebody through the Council on Aging or through the police department or through your neighbor or through your family who you know does roofing. Have them come by and take a look at your roof and say, is there any way that we could really get this done for $2,000? And they're going to tell you no. Never get pressured into doing anything like that. Now, sometimes people think it's a good idea. It's not such a terrible price. It might be somebody who's fairly reputable, and then you sign a contract with that person. Sometimes there are things that are out of the police's control. If you're completely scammed from the beginning, there are things that we can do. But when you enter into a contract with a contractor and you sign paperwork and you say you could do this particular job for that much, and then that particular job turns into other jobs and they keep on adding on to it, that's when it becomes a little more difficult criminally. It becomes more of a civil issue between the two of you. So we often have to like sidestep things and be careful about what we can certainly get involved in and what we certainly cannot get involved in. But like everything we've talked about you guys today, prevention is really the key. No one's going to come knock on your door and say they can do a job for you for an underpriced job and it's ever going to be legitimate. There are going to be some times where you contact a company or somebody said maybe they're giving out leaflets throughout your neighborhood and they're a legitimate company and they want to do work for you. And that job then continues to grow and continues to get a little bigger. Once you enter into a legitimate contract with a legitimate company, even if they begin to add things on, it becomes more of really like a civil issue than it does a criminal issue for us. You can tell them to stop at any time. You can stop payments on your checks. The two of you can litigate that together. But there's one that's a clear scam, and there's one that's a little more cloudy. The ones that are the clear scams really are the ones where they cold call you, try and give you a job for super, super, super cheap, ask you to start the job right away. You fall for that, the $500 for your front steps that should really cost $5,000, and then before you know it, that $500 turned into $50,000. And once people are involved with these people and they start talking to these people, they've already paid these people. You know, you might be a little bit embarrassed. You might be a little bit bummed out. You might really think that this job has to be done, and you pay them the $50,000, and they never ever really complete any of the tasks that they've done. So, certainly something to look out for. Reputable contractors will always tell you, go get a second price. Take a week. Here's a written contract. Everything is spelled out in the contract. Read the contract. Have your family read the contract. If you think it's something you want to do with our company, give us a call back at any time. We're not going to hound you, and we'll do the job when you want us to do the job. It's always different when they come to you, they have a sense of urgency, and they tell you got to start to pay right off the bat, or they can start today. Those are all red flags, and I would never have anyone do work on my house unless I knew who they were, unless I heard from a friend, heard somebody in my family, and I got 3 of the prices. I would never have any work done at my house unless I did that.
Can I one thing too? Just this goes with scams and maybe contract things. A lot of entities will not call. The IRS will never call you. They will send you a letter. So if you run into a situation like this, even if it's a contract matter or you're feeling pressured, you might be best off just saying, you know what, we're going to do everything in writing from now on too. So just something to consider.
Yes. The question is, what happens when you get, or what does it mean, or what goes on after you get a letter in the mail saying your information has been compromised, or the company has been hacked, or it could have been a past employer has been hacked, and so all of your personal information has been leaked they're informing you, but what do you do?
I guess I'll start quick and then probably you can answer. So in those situations, everybody here, believe it or not, every one of us, the panel, all of you guys, has all had your information somewhat, partial, completely hacked at some point during your life. It's happened everywhere. Everybody's got a little bit of info floating out there. So when they call you to get you more information, they're looking to put together the pieces of that puzzle to get that. If they've got 25%, they're looking to make it 50%. If they get 50%, they're looking to make it 75%. Some of the best things that you could do when a company notifies you that your information has been compromised, you can call your credit bureaus. You can sign up for like a credit monitoring system. You can lock your credit down. Oftentimes when that happens, those companies will also send you like a free 2-year subscription to a monitoring company who can keep a look at your stuff. But that's a little more, that would be what we would recommend. Maybe the banks have some better ideas about that, but we really have a difficult time preventing those kind of things from happening because those data breaches are massive and they happen on like a national and an international scale that are really way outside the realm of anything that we can prevent.
So yeah, so I would absolutely recommend, so credit freezes. I've had one ever since the big Equifax breach a number of years ago. I've had all my credit frozen. If you need credit, you can always unfreeze it. One other thing too, sometimes in these breaches, your username and password might be hacked. And I don't know if there's anybody in here, you don't need to raise your hands, but if you reuse the same password at multiple websites, that's can put you in some danger because if you have your username as your email address, which you probably use for a lot of services, and you use the same password at, say, Best Buy and at your bank, and Best Buy gets hacked, a lot of these scammers will take these usernames and passwords from data breaches and go try them at your bank. So if you're reusing the same password at different websites, I would highly recommend against that too, because one data breach could reveal your password for all your logins.
And it is really frustrating, just lots of examples with how many times her identity has been leaked or information has been hacked from medical places, from other places. And like Detective Gallagher said, it's happened to all of us. So I think a lot of, getting rid of like the shame around being hacked and I'm not an expert on this, but I expect that it's going to happen almost. And it's kind of just watching for when it might happen so that you can either report it or rectify the situation as quickly as possible is, I think, a good way to think about it. So if your credit card, is compromised, calling the credit company, getting a new card number. A lot of times, until systems change where we're not giving all of our information to all these different companies, I don't know how that would work, but it's probably going to keep happening, I think. And just getting into the frame of mind of not necessarily expecting that it won't happen if you're perfect, because it's impossible to be perfect in this situation, but just it's probably going to happen. I'll be ready when it does. I know what to watch for.
Can I just add something
Yes.
to that? I recently went to a fraud summit where I was a panelist, and one of the things that I took away for me personally was that it's only if you have not been, if your information has not been breached, which I doubt because there were so many breaches out there, it's only a matter of time. If you haven't been a victim of fraud or a scam, it's only a matter of time. I think we just need to do our due diligence to, protect ourselves, but it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, and to be prepared and to be educated as much as possible to how to deal with it.
There's a question on if you receive a call that might be spoofed, how you can call them back to find out if the call is a legitimate caller.
Yeah, but he was saying how they give you a number that looks real and then you can something, I think, maybe I misunderstood.
So, for example, if you go to watertownsavings.com, our main phone number is 617-928-9000. So if you get a phone call and your phone displays Watertown Savings Bank 617-928-9000, the scammers, that is within their capability to look on our website and figure out what our number is. And they can call you, say, hi, I'm Johnny from the fraud department at Watertown Savings. I need your account information. if you get any calls like that that purport to be from your bank or any other official agency, and you start to say, hey, they're really asking a lot of things they shouldn't be asking about, or if you hang up and call that same number back, the scammers, absent some super duper high level cybersecurity thing that would never happen to anybody in this room, they are not going to be able to take control of the bank's incoming calls, but they can fake what an outgoing call looks like. It's kind of a one-way street. So hopefully that clears that up.
So sometimes we'll have people call, like Eversource, for example, directly, just the 1-800 number, hang up, call Eversource, say, I was just on the phone with someone that says they were a rep from your company. Were you trying to reach me? Because that person can look in your account and see if someone just called you. And most of the time they say, nope, that wasn't us. So
My other question is, you mentioned that the money amount that Medicare hasn't gone up. How could that be possible over 2 decades when fraud has increased over 2 decades? How
There-
has that number not changed?
the question was on the number that was shared was from many years ago, I believe 2008,
2007.
2007, and how that number hasn't gone up since there's so much more
The
fraud.
60,000. The 60 million, billion. That I have not, so that number is provided to us. I can use that number because it was provided to us by the federal government. The federal government has not given us a new number. Yes, the number has gone up. I'm going to say that to you because from where I sit, I see a lot more fraud coming in, a lot more complaints coming in. But we don't have an official number other than that to use.
The question was in person, if somebody is coming with you to the bank to check money out or to withdraw money, are they seeing that in banks right now as part of scams?
So if I understand correctly, the scam was along the lines of please take out more money and then we're going to track how it gets to the scammer. We actually do see that sometimes, but oftentimes that's where they're instructing you to go to the Bitcoin ATM to transfer it into this separate account that they're going to keep safe. So you might, if you are asked to assist in an investigation and it's not, either a uniformed police officer or somebody who can identify themselves as a police officer, I would absolutely, huge red flags there. Be very careful proceeding with something like that. So good question.
And really, if we're ever looking to track money, we have our own money for that kind of stuff. All of our gun investigations, our drug investigations, we use our own money for all that kind of stuff. So we would never go to somebody and ask them, hey, can you take out $200 for us so we can use your money to track a criminal case for us? That would never happen.
It's a good question. In the back, Betty? The question is about getting calls about a survey from possibly the CDC and if that could, and that they're wondering. It's more you're taking a survey type of a call. Okay. Is that a current scam that you're seeing? Anybody?
I mean, I know, you do get surveys on the computer and on your phone and that kind of stuff. But if that survey ever asks you to pay for that survey or asks you for any verifying information along with that survey, don't give it. Don't do it. Yeah, I mean, there are surveys that go out online and go out over your phone. But I would, and if you want to participate in that survey, that would be up to you. But if that survey then begins to ask you for any banking information, your birthday, your social security number, your address, any of that kind of stuff, that's what we talked about in the beginning. Nobody should try and separate you from your money, and no one should try and separate you from your personal information. If that starts to happen during a survey that you think you've legitimately logged on to, get out of it, shut it down, and don't go back. But I have not seen that, no.
Question was on how regularly you should be changing logins and passwords, and also if pass keys are safe.
So going back to what I said before, if you're using a different password for every single website, your risks are a lot lower because that password is only going to be able to get into that one site. And oftentimes they might even have additional verifying factors where they send you a code by text or email. So personally, I use a password manager, which helps, manage all these different passwords. So that's good. And some websites will force you to change your password periodically. probably because they're concerned that you're using the same password at multiple websites. That's a very common. If you can look up a type of hack called credential stuffing. That's where they take all these compromised credentials and go try them out at different banks and whatnot to see if they work. That was good. Now passkeys, that involves like biometrics and whatnot, which is in some ways more secure. Like people can't clone your eyes or your fingerprint. I guess the only downside would be is if you did have somebody who was very close to you, I guess you'd have to be careful with that if they had a way to manipulate your physical features. But I think overall passkeys are very secure, and I think a lot of entities are moving to them away from passwords.
We have just a couple minutes left, so just maybe one or two more questions. Andra? I think the question is around how your phone number and email address, how you can see how they got that information. The scammer, is there a way to see how they got how they were able to hack in? And then also, there was an example she gave around a WhatsApp code that she received an email for. Oh, okay. Yeah, that you didn't know about. You didn't know about it. So noticing unknown actions like a code for an app that you don't use or something like that associated with your cell phone. And I believe the question was, how do you fix that? Do you have to get a new phone, or what do you do?
So we really aren't. We really aren't sure how they get everyone's information, but stuff's out there. It's all out there, whether it be any social media stuff, be all the stuff that they get from a data breach, anything that you may have sent to somebody at somewhere down the line. All that information is really out there. And we talked earlier about them having 25% of it, 50% of it. It's all, you can get a little bit of it. And you talked about WhatsApp, which is funny because oftentimes some of the scammers will ask you to go on to a thing like that because there are algorithms that are related to the conversations you're talking about, and they can actually, like, by using AI and a whole bunch of other stuff, they can make that conversation they want to have with you on WhatsApp sound much more familiar, much more understanding, and have many more things in your background that they're able to discover. They can load it all into there, and it can sound far more convincing on a WhatsApp thing than it can be sometimes just from a regular phone call. But your phone number is out there. Like not even all the detective databases that we have, we can access all kinds of information that some people can't. But it's amazing, just publicly, what is out there on all of us. Amazing. So your phone, changing your phone, unless you've let them into your phone by giving them keystroke information and that sort of stuff, the Apple Store is great like that. If you have a device that you currently possess that that device has been compromised, immediately shut it off and go to somebody who knows how to fix that device, look into that device, or worst case scenario, you may have to get rid of that. Go to whatever phone store you bought your phone at and get a new one. But if your computer gets compromised and you know it, immediately shut it down and take it somewhere. If your phone itself has been hacked, shut it down and take it somewhere. Contact your banks immediately. Try and put a credit freeze on everything, because the quicker you get to those couple of steps, that can prevent them from taking your money. If they've already taken it any further, or if they haven't taken it yet by taking it at all, those are all the steps you want to take. But if your phone itself gets hacked, shut it off. If it's an Apple, take it to the Apple Store, take it to wherever, figure out something you want to get done with that phone, whether it be buying a new one or try and get it fixed. If it's your computer, the same thing. Shut your computer down immediately and take that computer somewhere, Best Buy, anybody who knows what they're doing with computers, and tell them what had happened to you, and they can try and get whatever bad stuff that's in it out of it. But even before you take it somewhere, call your bank right away. If any of your accounts have been compromised, there are ways that they can sometimes close it, or, if it's a pending transaction, they can hold it back. Call the credit agencies. You don't have to call all three. If you call one, they have to notify the other two. So those are all steps you could take to kind of prevent yourself from losing anything any further. But I've heard about computers getting hacked a lot, not often phones itself. Your phone number maybe, but the device itself not necessarily. But if that ever happens, power it down. Try and contact your bank and say, I think I just got cooked here. What can you do for me? And they can help you walk everything else through the lines.
So can we please thank you so much to our panelists who came and shared their time with us today. We very much appreciate you all being here. And if you have any follow-up questions or you weren't able to ask before the time was up, feel free to come down to the office and we'll make sure we get some help for you or schedule a time to meet. But thank you very much, everybody.
ACMi productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMi to learn how you can help.